What's up everyone and welcome on back to the channel. The live action How to Train Your Dragon movie is coming out to theaters and it is going to do great. And that fucking sucks. It makes me very depressed, but there's nothing that we can do about it. It's literally about to have the biggest opening for the entire franchise, according to estimates. But this is such a bad idea for animation and the longevity of Universal and DreamWorks. They may have a hit on their way right now, but long term, this is such a stupid move. So I wanted to break down why this film sucks for animation and hurts animation long term, how this will only have short-term success for Universal and DreamWorks, and why we're in this crisis to begin with. But before we get into all of that, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do deep dives on the film and TV industry, and sometimes now I get to discuss and showcase films and TV before they even come out because I was invited into the Apple TV First Bites Creator Program, where I get to screen Apple TV shows and films before they come out and share my thoughts and hype them up. This is such a big deal for me. I am very small, both on TikTok and on YouTube, but I am very excited about this, so please follow me for all that, follow me for my deep dives, but let's get into it. So How to Train Your Dragon is one of my favorite films. I literally have toothless socks on right now. This is a toothless shirt that I wear constantly. I bump This Is Burke when I work out, and whenever I'm feeling down and want to feel something, like I want to feel chills, I just watch the test flight scene. So when this live action remake was announced, I was not excited at all. I was instead repulsed. Hollywood has been treating animation in such a garbage way, and making these live action remakes all but confirms how Hollywood sees animation. They don't see animation in the same caliber of live action films, even though they're the same thing. You're telling a story, you're making a film, you're trying to get the audience to feel something. And these live action remakes don't even do that. They're just trying to make money. Every time one of these remakes comes out, the attitude feels like, hey, we did it in animation, but let's do it for real this time. Animation is a phenomenal medium that is a work of art, and these Hollywood executives treat it like it's just a kid's genre, even though we've had amazing stories get told in the medium of animation where they are constantly pushing boundaries. There are things you can do in animation that you can't do in live action just because of how it's presented and the medium that it's in. We've all seen how awful these lions look in the live action Lion King and how awful it looks when they actually speak. It's just their lips moving. Their eyes are not moving or reacting to their words because that's not how real life lions operate. Their faces aren't delivering any kind of emotion because real life lions don't have that emotion when they speak, or when they meow, I guess. They're just giving us lifeless lions whose lips move up and down. And it's the same for How to Train Your Dragon. Look at the costumes. In animation, they look fine. That is the style of the world that they created, and it works with the characters that they created. However, they're trying to do that exact same style and look, but in live action, it does not translate well at all. And I'm sorry to the costume designer, no shade at all, but this kind of looks like an SNL sketch or a Broadway version that's kind of low budget. In animation, you can forge your own style and everything will look fine because everything is in that style. But in this, you're taking real people in the real world and making them wear this absolutely insane costume that looks more cartoony than the actual cartoon. And even when they want to do exact shot-for-shot scenes, they can't because it costs so much more money to do it in live action than to do it in animation. For instance, here's the test flight sequence in animation. In the animated version, there is so much tension with Toothless and Hiccup trying to work together, and the camera is able to focus on both of them equally. They can take time and focus on Hiccup and have close-ups of his face and have great shots with him because he is fully animated, and they can fully control both of them in animation, and they don't have to worry too much about the animation costs. And here's the exact same scene in live action. In live action, Hiccup constantly goes from the real life actor to being a CG character. We can't focus in on his face and have those same close-ups because it would look fake. Because of this, we can't focus on the tension between Toothless and Hiccup, and the focus mainly goes to Toothless. The camera work is far more sporadic and chaotic, and not in a good way to mask that Hiccup is mostly CG. To get those shots to look exactly like the animated version, the cost would be astronomical. Even though this scene is fine on its own, the animated version is so much better. It's like if I gave you amazing tacos and you took them home and reheated them and made some alright nachos out of them. Yeah, I'm sure it's good, but it's nowhere near the original version. And even though I am shitting on this, I will say that they did a great job designing Toothless going from animation to live action. He genuinely does look good. but the rest of this movie looks like a Capital One commercial, because that Viking look that they created specifically for the animated How to Train Your Dragon does not look good in live action. Since its inception, animation has always told phenomenal stories for both TV and movies. It pushes technology forward and challenges audience members to new stories, but Hollywood just sees it as a kids genre, and this live action remake just reinforces that idea. Even though How to Train Your Dragon was literally used as reference for HBO's House of the Dragon. Can you imagine being used from an Emmy-winning TV show where they basically steal all of your work, and yet your work is still seen as lesser quality from the industry? It's kind of a spit in the face, right? It disgraces everyone who worked on the original film and who works in animation. And these live action remakes just amplify that message that animation is not a real medium and can only be used for kids stuff. And on top of all that, it is such an obvious cash grab, especially for something that came out only 15 years ago. It's not like they have any new technology or they want to update the story because the original is just a little problematic for future generations. They're literally doing the exact same thing because they're devoid of any original thought. They brought on the original director Dean DeBlois, who apparently only did it because he didn't want Universal to screw it up. And they even got the original composer John Powell. They literally are doing the same thing. Which, real quick on John Powell, did he do any actual work on this movie, or did he just turn in his original score? Like, did he at least extend some of the score, shorten some of the score because the scenes weren't exact for one shots? Or did he just simply copy paste and send it in? I don't know about you, but I yearn to have a career where I can do something 15 years ago and then turn in that same work again and probably get paid twice as much, since in my opinion, How to Train Your Dragon put John Powell on the map in terms of composers, and it really increased his notoriety. And I can't really knock them for it, right? Getting work in Hollywood is already hard, especially in animation right now, since animation work is really down. But this is such a paycheck film where you only take it because your kid needs a college fund. Once again, not knocking it. Get that bag. Okay, I'm kind of knocking it, but I'm not any better than them. I would like to say that I wouldn't do something like this in my career where it's only just for a paycheck, but that's like every job I've ever had. I would definitely do something for a paycheck. So the new How to Train Your Dragon movie is going to send a signal that animation is not worth as much as live action. It's going to be a soulless remake. I don't care what critics say. I don't care if people enjoy it either. Like what you like, enjoy what you're going to enjoy, but you are enjoying junk food, which is fine from time to time. But on top of all of that, it is such a short-term strategy for Universal and DreamWorks. DreamWorks and Universal definitely saw all that money that Disney made back in 2016 to 2020 and thought, hey, why don't we do that? So they went to one of their biggest franchises, ripped its soul out, and they're for sure gonna profit off of it. And that is going to make them really look at all of their past animated films and see which ones they should remake into live action next. And the problem with that is they don't have the IP or the fan base to support that. Look, I love DreamWorks, but they are in no way in the same caliber as Disney in terms of IP or fandom. Their catalog is very sparse. They've only been around for like 30 years, where Disney has been around for over 100. People do not obsess over DreamWorks like they do at Disney. There is no such thing as DreamWorks adults. No one is surprise proposing during the Kung Fu Panda live show. So they can't rely on nostalgia or their fan base like Disney can do. They don't have the same built-in audience, but How to Train Your Dragon's success will likely have them think they do. So they will likely turn to the rest of their animation catalog to see what they can adapt. And this could potentially make the most uncanny shit we've ever seen. Look, I hate that they're remaking the How to Train Your Dragon movie, but it's the one to remake if you're gonna do it. Most of the characters are human. There is a ton of CG work needed for Toothless and the dragons, but at least they don't talk, where the rest of their catalog is mostly talking animals and mythical creatures. Remember how I said there are things you can do in animation that you can't do in live action? This is one of those things. They will either try to make a live action CGI version of Shrek that will make kids have nightmares for years, or they will do a live action Madagascar movie that will make the movie Cats look so good in comparison. I wonder if Dean DeBlois feels like he's at the end of Oppenheimer right now. You know, where he's starting something that he knows will lead to the downfall of humanity? Not only will the rest of their catalog not translate well to live action as well as Disney did, who mostly has humans in their movies, but the cost will be astronomical. To have multiple CGI main characters, those budgets will have to be over $200 million. They'll have to be. So that ups the stakes for Universal and for DreamWorks, and those movies need to hit $1 billion, which is very hard to do nowadays. DreamWorks and Universal is also likely looking at how these live action remakes helped out Disney and their parks. Disney's live action remakes did help out with their parks. It did help them create new versions of these characters and helped bring their IP to a younger audience. And Universal is very smartly copying that exact same move since they created the Epic universe, and there is an entire part of their theme park centered around How to Train Your Dragon. But I'm not sure remaking anything else in their catalog would actually help out their parks in any type of way. But I'm curious, if you got an idea, drop a comment below. DreamWorks and Universal are definitely just looking at Disney's live action run and focusing only on the positives, where Disney was pulling in billions of dollars a year, leeching off of nostalgia, and that's what they think is ahead of them. But even if DreamWorks had the catalog and the insane fan base that Disney has to have 10 years of success remaking their animated movies, it still is a short-term solution as Disney is now learning with their live action remakes. These live action remakes are not always reliable at the box office and are in no way making the same amount of money that they used to back in 2016. As we saw with the flops of The Little Mermaid and Snow White. And all of this comes from Comcast, right? The company that owns Universal and DreamWorks and is literally so bad that they have an entire Wikipedia section dedicated to their criticism and was awarded the worst company of the year back in 2015. Ever since DreamWorks was bought by Comcast in 2016, things have been getting so much worse. How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2 made everyone think that they were coming for Pixar. The story quality was unlike anything that we've seen before from DreamWorks, and their animation quality massively improved in How to Train Your Dragon 2. But around 2016 is seemingly where they stopped trying to be inventive and go back to what they know can work, like having shittier animation quality and relying on past IP. And in this process, they actually hurt their IP, as we saw with the Megamind sequel that got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that we haven't gotten some bangers out of this. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was absolutely phenomenal, its animation was insane, and the wild robot was absolutely beautiful. But things have changed for DreamWorks Animation. They stopped having a fully in-house animation team, laying off a ton of people, and now they rely on vendors around the world to service their animation needs, which usually results in lesser quality animation. I do go into this more in depth in a much earlier video if you want to check that out. DreamWorks wants to make people think that they are Disney. Just look at what they did with their logo change. An insanely iconic logo and opening was removed to create one to remind you of all the IP that they have. That's the direction that they want to go, and unfortunately, it might work out for them, at least business-wise, either short-term or long-term, since Shrek 5 will likely clean up at the box office. And I only see this getting worse. I know this sounds stupid and kind of a stretch, but what if Comcast starts mandating DreamWorks Animation to start making animated movies starring humans, that way they can remake them later? I know it sounds stupid, but so is remaking a 15-year-old movie. DreamWorks Animation could very easily be put in a box, forced to create animated films with certain guidelines like only having human characters so it can translate easier to live action. And what's worse about all of this is there is nothing we can do. The How to Train Your Dragon live action remake is likely going to do very well at the box office, and they've already announced a sequel is on the way. You cannot go see it, that's in your power. I'm not gonna go see it, but I can't say the same for the rest of humanity. I do have some hope that DreamWorks realizes that they are not Disney and they can't repeat their success, but corporations don't work on logic, so there is not much hope there. So the only thing I think I can look forward to is watching it all burn down, which is very nihilistic of me, and it will hurt both the animation industry, which I care a lot about, and the live action industry. And it can potentially hurt movie theaters, because as we are seeing with these Disney live action remakes, audiences can't be relied on for these movies. But what do you all think about this? Even if it's a fine movie, are you still gonna go see it, even though you've seen the exact movie before? Do you agree that these are soulless cash grabs, or hey, maybe you do have a different perspective on it that I'm just not seeing? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you subscribe, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.